Okay, so we have not discussed imaginary numbers, well, a little bit, until now, okay? So this whole lesson is all about imaginary numbers. So the definition of an imaginary number is if you have a negative inside of an even root. Maybe draw an arrow right there and write even. So let me ask you this. Is the square root of negative 40, the 45th root of negative 3, is that an imaginary? No. What do you do if it's a negative and that's an odd root? Do you remember? You just pull it out. So it would be a negative times the 45th root of 3. That's not an I. It's only an I if it's even, okay? All right, so example 1. If you see an I in your problem, in your answer, leave it an I, okay? Just leave it be. I's in your answer are fine. You cannot have an I to the second in your answer, okay? That's not simplified. So I to the second, you guys, is just I times I, right? And what's the definition of an I? It's the square root of a negative 1. So that would be the square root of a negative 1 times the square root of a negative 1. And what's that, everybody? Negative 1. Yes. So if you see an I to the second in your final answer, replace it with a negative 1. Okay? That's what you need to remember. Okay. So we're just going to go ahead and start with example 2. Okay? I need you to see this correctly. A lot of doing these things correctly today is you seeing it correctly. So look right here. You've got this term, you've got this term, and then you've got that stuff you need to do. So talk to me about the square root of a negative 1. That's just an I. Yeah, so write it as an I. So that's I plus 3. Tell me what I do now. Distribute is exactly right. So I have a negative 5 and a plus 2I. Sometimes they're going to ask you to write it in the form of A plus BI. They like it in that order. It's not any more difficult. It's just something you need to remember is to put the number first and put the I second. So it's not a big deal. 3 subtract 5 is a negative 2. 1I and 2I gives me 3I, and that's my answer. You guys really exaggerate the dot on your I so I can tell that it's an I, okay? So make it a nice, good, solid dot like that, okay? Okay, question 3. You're just multiplying. So this is I times negative 3I. Well, that's negative 3I, talk to me, I squared, right? Can you have an I squared in your answer? No, you replace it with a what? Negative 1. Is this correct? Negative 3 minus 1, the answer is negative 4. No. The negative 1 is supposed to be what? Multiplied. So it's a negative 3 multiplied by a negative 1, which gives me a positive 3, and I'm done. Okay? You guys, look at question B. Up above question B, I want you to write this down, please. Write down 8x, parenthesis, 4 minus 3x, close your parenthesis. Okay? If that were your problem, would you know how to do that with an x? Yeah. Tell me with one word what we would do. Distribute. Well, it's exactly the same way. You guys, i's work almost exactly like x's, like variables. Almost exactly. So let's distribute. 8 times 4 is 32i. And then 8i times negative 3i, that's negative 24. And then I times I is I squared. Okay, now I'm going to show you how to skip a step, so watch. You can't have that I squared. I squared is really what? Tell me again. Negative 1. Is that negative 1 subtracted from the 24 or is it multiplied? It's multiplied. So take your eraser and get rid of the I squared. And then what would I do? What's the I squared going to do? Change the sign of the 24. Yeah, negative times a negative is a positive. And let's write this as A plus BI. So you would write it as 24 plus 32i, and that's your answer. Okay, next one. Up above this, write this down. 3 minus x times 5 plus 4x. Okay? If this were your problem right there, everybody look forward for just a second. If that were your problem, would you know how to do it? Everybody tell me that. Yes. What would you do? You would, some people think about it as distribute, double distribute. I always just say FOIL. So let's write down the word FOIL. That's all we're going to do. So let's go. 3 times 5 is 15. 3 times 4i, that's 12i. Negative I times 5 is negative 5i. This is the tricky one, so watch. I'm doing the L, and I'm doing negative I times positive 4i. Watch. A negative times a positive is a negative. 4 times 1 is 4. I times I is, talk to me guys, I squared, so what do? Just say it in an easy way. Change the sign of the 4. Yeah. And let's write it as a plus bi. So 5 plus 4 is, or 15 plus 4 is 19. 12i minus 5i is a plus 7i. That's my answer, and I'm done. Who says this is easy? Raise your hand. Do it all the way to the sky. Okay, yay. Okay, question D. Up above this, everybody write down 6 plus x plus parenthesis negative 2 plus 5x. I know that you know how to do that. I know that you do. Well, if you can do that, you can do this guy. Okay? Everybody just kind of sit back and listen for 2 seconds. Look right here. If I have 4 plus 3, and if I put parentheses around the 4 and parentheses around my 3, is that necessary? Tell me. Were the parentheses necessary? No. It makes it look more difficult and it's not necessary. Look right here. Eyes right here. What if you had a negative in front of it? Probably not the best example. Anyway, let's forget about that. The point is, those parentheses were not necessary. It didn't change anything. Who says, I gotcha? Let's see. Okay, now look at our problem. Look at those parentheses. If I had a 2 sitting out in front of it, then the first parentheses would be necessary. If I had a negative sitting right there that I had to distribute, then the parentheses would be necessary. I don't have any of those things. So were the first set of parentheses necessary? Everybody in the room? No. So I just want you to write 6 minus I. Look at the second set of parentheses. If this was a 2 in front of it, necessary. If this was a negative, necessary. I don't have anything there. Like literally there's nothing there. So necessary or not necessary? Not. So positive times a negative is a negative 2 plus 5i. And let's write it in the form of a plus bi. 5 minus 2 is 4. Negative I, positive 5i is a positive 4i. Dot that I very clearly, and you're done. You already know how to do all of this. Just look at it as an x and you'll be totally fine. Okay? Okay, look at question E. Everybody in the room, up above that, I want you to write how I want you to see it. Go ahead, and I'm going to call on one of you guys. Write down how I want you to see it. Okay. Lexi, what'd you write down, honey?
I did like a parentheses.
Okay.
Negative 4 minus 2x, and then negative, and then another set of parentheses, and then 2 minus 2.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Make the I an X. Who says I gotcha? Okay, I have a question. Look right here. Everybody look. The number one mistake. Is this binomial multiplied by that binomial and I need to FOIL? Yes or no? No. They're not multiplied. How do you know they're not multiplied? That negative sitting right in the center. Okay, I'm adding these. Look at the first set of parentheses. Hey.
Hi there.
How are you?
Good, how are you?
Good. Wow, I got this 2 days in a row.
Did you really?
I should feel worried.
No, it's probably because
It's the end.
The last guy
No.
was behind. 'Cause
Yes.
I'm working second, so.
Oh, you're ahead,
Yeah, I'm
and
ahead.
he was behind.
Yeah.
Well, good thing you didn't come on the same day. That would be
Yeah, that
awkward,
would- yeah,
right?
that would-
Yeah. Okay, everybody look in front of the first parentheses. There's nothing there. Everybody in the room, necessary or not? Not. Okay, so let's all go -4 minus 2i. Look at the second set of parentheses. Look in front. Necessary or not? Yes, necessary. Because that negative goes through and changes all the signs. So you have a -2 and a plus 8i. Make sure you change both of those signs. Now let's write it as a plus bi. So a -4 and a -2 is a -6. A -2i and a positive 8i gives me a positive 6i. That's my answer, and I'm done. Okay? Who says gotcha? Tell me how you're feeling. Good? Okay. All right. Look at question 4. So guys, on almost every single problem that I'm teaching you today, I'm connecting it back to something you already know how to do because they're almost exactly the same. Okay? Watch example A. Do this with me, okay? Draw a line right there. And I want you to write 5/3 times the square root of 2. You've done this. So let's just talk about that guy right there for a second. If they ask you to rationalize the denominator, they're telling you to get rid of the square root on the bottom. So what would we do? Everybody shout that out. Multiply by what? Square root of 2. By the way, everybody look right here. This is a great opportunity. Look at this. Some people on the midterm were doing this. They wrote that, and then they wrote 5 square root of 2 over 3 times 2. The problem with that work is they multiplied the bottom by the square root of 2, but they did not show multiplying the top by the square root of 2. So yes, that's right what I've done, but you have to make sure, don't get lazy. You have to write it on the top and the bottom. And they were like, if it's not on both of them, literally they said all the points are gone. So they're picky on that. Who says, I understand what you just said? Raise your hand, let me see. Okay, now let's apply that same thing over here. Rationalize. What am I trying to get rid of, guys? The I. How do I get rid of it? Multiply top and bottom by I. So on the top, I have 5i. On the bottom, I have a 3. What else do I have on the bottom? I squared. And what's I squared? -1. You could do that. Okay? I would never do that. Just so you guys know. Never. I never ever have my students put the negative on the bottom because I feel like that is an accident waiting to happen. It messes up a lot of people. So I would really prefer you put it there. Does it matter? No. But it's good practice if you continue to do something in the problem. Okay? All right. Question B. Draw a line right here. Everybody write down 4 plus the square root of 2 divided by 7 minus 2 square root of 2. Now I want you to just look at that guy. You're trying to get rid of the square root. Right or wrong? Look right here. Square root of 2, square root of 2. Right or wrong? That's wrong. That's wrong. It's not supposed to be a square root of 2. It's supposed to be what? Somebody tell me. The conjugate. Some people even remember the name. You go 7 plus 2 square root of 2. Okay? Write this down for me, please. And don't be lazy. You have to write it on the top. So you go 7 plus 2 square root of 2. Why do you have to do the conjugate? You guys remember, look, 2 terms requires you to multiply by 2 terms. You just change that middle sign. Who says, I understand? Raise your hand up high. Give me feedback. Okay, now let's come over here and let's do the same thing. I cannot multiply top and bottom by I. I have to multiply by the conjugate. So everybody go 7 plus 2i. Please write it on the top and the bottom. With one word, what are we going to do to the top? FOIL. Write that down. So when you go through your workbook, you remember what you did. What are we going to do to the bottom? F and L. We don't have to FOIL. Why don't we have to FOIL? They're conjugates. The O and I are going to cancel out. Good. Okay, let's FOIL. 7 times 4 is 28. 4 times 2i is 8i. 7 times I is 7i. Watch this. I times 2i. Positive times a positive is a positive. 2 times 1 is 2. I times I is I squared. Tell me what to do, everybody. Change the sign. So just erase that plus and make it a minus. If somebody FOILed the bottom, did a full FOIL, would they be wrong? Yes or no? No. They would just waste their time. They're just doing things that are not necessary, but it wouldn't be wrong. 7 times 7 is 49. A negative 2i times a positive 2i. A negative times a positive is a negative. 2 times 2 is 4. I times I is I squared. What do? Change the sign. So now I'm going to write this as 26 plus 15i over 53. If they don't tell you to write it as a plus bi, you're done. If they do tell you write it as a plus bi, here's how you do that on this one. You go 26 plus 15i, and then underneath each of those, put in 53, like that. You know why that's a plus bi, guys? Look, here's your a, 26 over 53. What's your b? 15 over 53. And then the I is just where it is. Okay? Who says gotcha? Let's see. Up high. Okay, good. Is this highlighted? This lesson is highlighted, right?
Yeah, but
Isn't it like a 4 or a 3 or a 3?
the highlighted ones were an example of 3 is the last 3.
We already did them?
Yeah.
Okay, so it was D and E, right?
C,
C and E. All 3. Well, those were easy. Weren't they? C was a foiling. D, parentheses weren't even necessary. E, distribute the negative and add them. So that was good. Is that all that's highlighted in the whole section? Nothing more. Okay, that's good. That doesn't mean you don't know how, you have to know how to do it. Right? Okay. Okay, what's the difference between these two things? Okay, I want you to write this down for me. Write down I's first. So the first thing you always do is take out the I's. If you don't, it's going to mess you up. Okay? So the square root of 4 is 2. The square root of 9 is 3. 2 times 3 is 6. Done. Easy. Look at the next one. The square root of a negative 4. Everybody tell me what that is. 2i. Yes. The square root of a negative 9. What's that, everybody? It's not negative, right? The negative comes out as an I, and then the square root of 9 is a 3. So it's a 3i. And then 2 times 3 is 6. What else do I have? I squared, and what's that? Negative. So that guy's a negative 6, and that guy's a positive 6. Okay? So be careful. Okay, here we go with question 5. Tell me, everybody in the room, I want you to talk to me. What do I do first?
Take out the
I's. Okay? So, this is going to be I squared of 2. This guy's going to be I square root of 8. You guys, if I wanted to, I could take that 8 and I could start breaking it down. But I'm not going to do that because I noticed something. Look, I times I is I squared. 8 times 2 is 16. What did I notice? The square root of 16 was a clean number, right? What is that? It's a 4. And that's multiplied by I squared. I squared is a negative 1. So that is a negative 4. And I'm done. Who says I'm good? Let me see. Okay. This guy right here. Write it as the square root of a negative 5 over the square root of a negative 16. Tell me what to do now. I's first, right? So I's. So everybody go I square root of 5 over, what do I have on the bottom? 4. Guess what? We're done. That's all you have to do. Okay, let's do this guy. Write it as the square root of a negative 5 over the square root of 27. Take out the negative and it's an I. So everybody go I squared of 5 over the square root of 27. Now everybody listen right here for 2 seconds. When I originally taught you this, I said simplify that square root of 27. Then just multiply top and bottom by whatever's left inside the root. I'm kind of changing my mind. I switched on you guys, and most of you said that you liked it better to not simplify. So let's try to not simplify. So let's just multiply top and bottom by the square root of 27. Then I have, on the top I have an I, and 27 times 5 is 135. So it's I times the square root of 135 over, somebody tell me what's on the bottom. 27 is correct. Am I done?
We have to simplify.
135, right? Well, I know 135 is going to break down into 5 and 27 because I just multiplied those together. Then 27 is 3 times 9. 9 is 3 times 3. So these two 3's come out as a single 3. So I have 3i square root of, what's here, guys? 15, yep, all over 27. Am I done? I am not done. I reduced the 15 and the 27. Is that correct?
No.
That is not correct. Why not the 15 and the 27? 15's inside. You can't do that, right? But I can reduce the 3 and the 27. So 3 goes into 3 once. 3 goes into 27 9 times. So the answer is I square root of 15 all over 9. And that's my answer. Now, if you don't like that method, then simplify the square root of 27 first. And then multiply by what's left. It doesn't matter. You're going to get the same answer either way. Who says I totally understand the difference, the two methods you're telling me? Raise your hand really high. Let me see. Okay. Most of you. Okay. As long as you understand that, we're good. Okay. Here's D. Write down what you think the first step should be. Go ahead. After you have the first step, write down what you think the second step should be. And then I want you to stop right there. Okay. So just freeze right there. Matt, what did you write as your first step?
I carried the 2 to the -1 and I got rid of the square root.
Okay, so tell me what to write.
So -1 squared
1. Okay.
plus -3.
Like that? Okay. That is not correct. Someone tell him why that's not correct.
You need to take out the i's first.
You need to take out the I, and then
Don't you write it twice?
you write it twice, and then you FOIL. That's like this, Matt. Look right here. If I had x plus 2 squared, that's like saying that's x squared plus 2 squared. But I can't do it like that. I have to FOIL it. Okay? Does that make sense, bud?
Yeah.
Okay, good job. Okay, so that's not it. Okay, so Grace, tell me what your first step was.
I wrote it again.
Okay, you wrote it twice, just like this. Okay, and then took the I. So -1 plus I squared of 3, -1 plus I squared of 3. Some of you may have done this as your first step. Look right here. Some of you may have said my first step is -1 plus I squared of 3 squared, and then you wrote it like that. It doesn't matter. All that matters is that your second step is the last line that I have written. Raise your hand. Everybody listen right here. Raise your hand if you had that right on your paper, all the way up so I can see. Okay, for those of you who didn't get that down right, okay, please, off to the side, write down the word FOIL. A -1 times a -1 is a +1. A -1 times I squared of 3 is a negative I squared of 3. I squared of 3 times a -1 is a negative I squared of 3. Now hold on for this one, okay? Watch this closely. I squared of 3 times I squared of 3. Positive times a positive is a positive. I times I is, tell me everybody, I squared. So what do I do?
-1.
Change the plus to a minus. And you don't have to put the 1 because there's still more than I'm writing down. Because I have the square root of 3 times the square root of 3, and what's that? What's the square root of 3 times the square root of 3, guys? That is 3. Good. Okay, now let's write this as a plus bi. So I have 1 minus 3, that's a -2. Look at this, guys. -1 I squared of 3, -1 I squared of 3, that's a negative, what is it? 2i square root of 3. Yeah. Good. Okay, question E. Write down your first step for question E. Do it all by yourself and then just freeze. Okay, Annie, what do you have, honey? Say it again. Okay, tell me what to write. I squared of 12. Is she right? Yep, who said that's what I wrote? Let me see. Okay, can I add those things together right now? Somebody tell me that. I cannot. Why not? They're not the same. So do I say done? What do I do? Start simplifying. Yep, take your 12, and 12 is 2 times 6, 6 is 2 times 3. So these two 2's come out as a single 2. So I have -2i square root of 3. Now do your 27. So 27, oh, not negative. Thank you. One of my, it should be 2i square root of 3. Hey guys, one of my 10-10 classes yesterday, I made a mistake and they were literally afraid to correct me. Like I could tell something was wrong because I kind of saw their faces and they were kind of like mumbling. Don't ever be afraid. Like correct me. So whoever did that, thank you for correcting me right then. Okay, so 27 is 3 times 9. 9 is 3 times 3. These two 3's come out as a single 3. So it's -3i square root of 3. Okay, this is important, so watch right here. Look at all these things that have to be identical to add these together. The i's have to be the same, and they are. If one guy has an I and the other guy doesn't, can't happen. This is a square root, and that's a square root. If one was squared and one was cubed, no way. And then the 3 inside also has to be the same. So can I add them together? Yes. So it's going to be I squared of 3. You got to put the number in front. What's the number that goes in front? Negative. Yep, -1. That's it. Done. Who says this lesson is easy so far? Let me see how you're feeling. Okay, good. Good, good, good. Does it make you feel relieved that we only have 4 more lessons after today's at 4? 1, 2, 3. Does that make you feel better? Yeah. The closer and closer we get to the final, the better and better you're going to feel. I promise. Okay? Okay. Question 6. This is not highlighted, right? I want you to put some stars around it because I think 2 semesters ago they asked this question. Okay, so it wasn't last time, so we didn't highlight it, but I think it was 2 semesters ago. Okay, look at these right here. Real number system. That means not, tell me, not imaginary. So it says D and B, which is funny, should be A and B. Look at A. Simplify A. What's that equal to? If it's an odd root, right? What do? Pull that negative out. So everybody go negative 47th root of 2. Is it possible to evaluate that in the real number system? Yes. Okay. And I would say it is not imaginary. Look at the next guy. You guys tell me, can I?
No.
No. So the answer would be no, and I would say it is imaginary. Okay? Yes.
So for A, would the negative be in front of the 47 or just the square root?
It's so it looks like I put it with the 47. She's critiquing where I put my negative, and that's good. It's like right there. So it's not a negative 47, it's a negative root. Good.
I have a question.
Yes.
I'm confused with B because like they both have -2, but does it have to do with what's B squared?
You guys explain. Why is B a no and A is a yes? Somebody tell.
Because the root is odd.
The root is not the, this root is odd. So you just pull it out. This root right here, honey, is even. If you have a negative and an even, it's what, everybody? Imaginary.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Okay. We're going to find a discriminant. Do you see the quadratic formula, guys? Look right here. B squared minus 4AC. That's the discriminant. See all this stuff right here? You don't want to memorize that. I'm going to put the word memorize. But you don't have to get like a 3x5 card and sit and try to think about it. You just have to think about it. Okay? Look right here. Let's just talk about this for a second. Everybody watch. If I had -2 plus or minus the square root of -3 all over 4. What if that b squared minus 4ac was negative? How many solutions would I have? Tell me. I'd have 2 because of the plus or minus, right? Would they be real, guys? Everybody right here. Would they be real or would they be imaginary?
For the one you wrote? Or for...
For that right here, for this that I have, we have 2 solutions. Are they real or are they imaginary?
Imaginary.
They're imaginary. Why are they imaginary?
Because it's an even root.
Because you have a negative in there, right? So look right here. If b squared minus 4ac is less than 0, that means if it's negative, you're going to have 2 complex solutions. Complex just means imaginary. Okay? Look right here. Just kick back and watch. What if it looked like that? What if my b squared minus 4ac was a positive? How many solutions do I have? Everybody tell me. 2. Are they imaginary or are they real? They're real. So look right here. If b squared minus 4ac is greater than 0, that would be positive. Then that means you have 2 real. Okay? Look right here, guys. What if this was 0? What's the square root of 0? 0. If you add or subtract 0, does it change the number? No. So all that, it doesn't even matter. How many solutions do I have? 1. Is it real or is it imaginary? It's real. So if it's equal to 0, then you have 1 real. I'm trying to highlight, but it's not really working. You would have 1 real. Okay? All right, now look what I want you to do. As we go through these, I don't want you to look up above. I want you to make yourself remember this, okay? Okay, here we go. All we're going to do is go b squared minus 4ac. So everybody write down b squared minus 4ac. b is a -2. Please do not write this down. Remember? Because it's going to mess you up. I told you don't ever write it like that. How do I want you to write it? As a 4. Yes. Minus 4 times a, which is 5, times c, which is a 1. You put that in your calculator and you get -16. Don't look up above. Think about it. That means you have a negative in the root. Real or imaginary, everybody? Imaginary. They call that complex. And how many do I have? 1 or 2? 2. So this is 2 complex. That's it. Who says gotcha? Let me see. Okay, let's do this one. This is b squared minus 4ac. Hey, Brad, Ross left his clipboard here yesterday, and I haven't had a chance to take it to him.
I'll bring it to him.
Okay. Thank you. Good to see ya.
See you later.
See ya. Okay, so do b squared minus 4ac. b is 1. So 1 squared is 1. Minus 4 times 6 times -2. When you do that, you get 47, I believe. Did anybody put it in your calculator? I think it's 47. Is it? Okay. That's in the root. Real or imaginary? Tell me that. Real. How many solutions do you have? 2. Yeah, 2 real. Okay, next one. B squared minus 4AC. 5 squared is 25 minus 4 times 3 times 10. You get negative 95, I think. No, negative 5. I don't know what it is. What is it? 95?
Negative 95.
Yeah, okay, so I was right. Real or imaginary, everybody? Imaginary. But we don't write imaginary. What word do we write, guys? I only have one person talking to me, guys. I need everybody. Complex. And everybody tell me how many? 2. Because of the plus or minus. Okay? Next one. B squared minus 4AC. 2 squared is 4. Minus 4 times 1 times 1. That gives me a 0. You have a square root of 0. Square root of 0 goes away. The plus or minus goes away. How many solutions do you have, everybody? 1. Is it real or complex? 1 real. You don't even need to memorize those things. You just have to think about it. Who says I understand that? I can do this with thinking. Way better than memorizing. Okay. Okay, these 2 and then we're done. 8 and 9. What are the zeros? How do you find a 0? Set it equal to 0. So everybody go x to the second plus 5x plus 7 equals 0. Is it going to factor?
No.
It's not. Do you want to complete the square? Mm-mm. 5 divided by 2 is 5 over 2 squared and you get 25 over 4. I don't want to do that. Right? So what's a better? Quadratic. So everybody go x equals negative 5 plus or minus the square root of 5 squared is 25 minus 4 times 1 times 7 all over 2 times 1 is 2. Everybody freeze. I want to ask you something. Do I have permission to stick that in my calculator all at once? I don't. Why don't I have permission? Tell me what would be there. Decimal form. Can't do it. So what do I do now? Do you know the next step? Grab your calculator and stick that in your calculator, right? Do you get negative 3? So now we have x equals negative 5 plus or minus the square root of negative 3 all over 2. Is that my answer? Am I done simplifying? It's not done. What do I do? It's an I, yeah. So x equals negative 5 plus or minus I square root of 3 all over 2. How many x-intercepts does that equation have? Tell me. Does it? It doesn't. Tell us how come it doesn't, bud?
It's not crossing the x-intercept.
How do you know that? Because I got answers, so how do you know that? They're imaginary. How in the world are you supposed to graph that? An imaginary number. You can't see it. You know what your graph looks like? You tell me what the graph looks like.
It's just like
It's
just floating.
high, right? It's like this. It's never going to touch it. That's what your graph looks like. So how many x-intercepts does it have? 0. No intercepts. Because they're imaginary and you don't graph imaginary. Okay, who says gotcha? Okay, good. You two girls, will you sit up for me, please? Okay, everybody go like this. Number your paper, 1, 2, 3, 4. List 4 ways to solve a quadratic equation. What's a quadratic? A parabola, which is an x squared. So just start listing them. 4 ways to solve a quadratic. Just do as many as you can. We'll fill in the rest together. Okay. Garrett, give us one, bud. Say it again. No, like a method, like a procedure that we could do to solve it. It's okay. It's all right. We'll figure it out. Yes, honey.
Do like equal it to 0?
And then do what?
Quadratic.
Quadratic formula. That's one. Quadratic formula. Right? Charity, tell me another one. Completing the square. Garrett, is this making sense now?
Yeah.
Okay. What's another one, Grace?
Foil.
Say it again.
Foil.
It's not called FOIL, it's backwards FOIL. It's the opposite of FOIL. What's the name? Factor. I know she knows what she's saying. Factor. I wonder if anybody got the last one. I would never use this last one, just so you know. Because most of the time it doesn't work out nicely.
Decimal?
No, because decimal's not a method. These are methods of solving.
Could be like just guess and check.
Say it again.
Like guess and check.
You could use guess and check. Weber doesn't love guess and check. It's just not very refined. You could do it, but it's not great. Anybody else? But yes, you're right. Yes, you're exactly right. Graphing. You know why I don't like graphing? Look at this. If you graph it and it looks like that, I have no idea what those values are. You know what I mean? It's just too, it just doesn't work out, right? Okay, so that's it. We're done. Do we have until 27? Is that how long we have?
I think we have till 18.
18? Okay, well, that's good. We'll take it.